Your heart is working right now, you know? It's beating without you even thinking about it, but there are certain things you eat, certain choices you make at breakfast that could actually be working against it, and you might not even realize it's happening. Most people, they think, well, as long as I'm not overweight, as long as my blood pressure is fine, my heart must be okay, right? But that's not really how it works. What research is showing us now is that there are 5 specific foods, 5 things that a lot of you are probably eating multiple times a week that can stress your heart cells in really important ways. And the thing is, these foods don't give you obvious warning signs. That's what makes this so important to understand. Think about your regular day. You wake up, you grab your coffee, maybe something quick for breakfast. Lunch comes around, you eat whatever's convenient. Dinner is whatever fits into your schedule, and nothing about it feels harmful. You're not sitting there thinking, oh, I'm damaging my heart right now, but that's exactly why we need to talk about this. The damage happens quietly. There's no drama. Your body doesn't scream at you. It's more like a small leak in your roof. You don't notice it until things start to really fall apart. My name is Dr. Livia Carter, and I've been doing this for about 10 years now. I work with people every single day, helping them understand what's actually going on inside their bodies. And I want to be really clear about something. I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to make you feel bad about what you've been eating. That's not what this is about. What I want to do is help you see something that's usually kind of hidden, so that you can make choices from a place of actually knowing what's happening rather than just guessing or feeling confused. Your heart has been working for you every single moment of your life. It's never complained. It's never taken a day off. And sometimes we just need to understand what actually helps it and what actually strains it. So over the next little while, I'm going to walk you through 5 foods that research really consistently shows create stress on your heart cells. I'm not going to use a bunch of medical jargon. Instead, I'm going to show you what's actually happening inside your body when you eat these things. I'm going to explain why it matters. And maybe most importantly, I'm going to tell you what you can actually do about it. By the time we're done, you're going to have a really clear picture of what these foods are, and you're going to have some practical ways to make changes that don't feel overwhelming or restrictive. Here's what you're going to understand by the end of this: which 5 foods are actually creating the most stress on your heart cells, why they're doing that, what signs your body might be giving you that it's struggling with these foods, and most importantly, how you can start making changes without feeling like you're giving up all the things you enjoy. You're going to feel empowered. You're not going to feel scared. Let me start by explaining something that's really important. Your heart cells are actually incredibly complex. They're not just beating to keep you alive, they're constantly communicating with your body, sending signals all over the place, managing energy, and adapting to whatever you're putting into your system. When certain foods get into your body, they trigger responses in your whole cardiovascular system. Most of the time, your body handles all of this beautifully. It's actually amazing how well it works. But there are some foods that consistently push your heart cells into a state where they're stressed, and over time, and this is the key thing that can actually change how they function. The 5 foods I'm going to talk about, they all have something in common. They trigger inflammation. Now, inflammation isn't always a bad thing, right? Inflammation is actually your body's way of healing. But chronic inflammation, the kind that just keeps going and going, that's different. It's like having a low fever that never really goes away. Your immune system stays kind of activated all the time. Your blood vessels get slightly irritated, and your heart cells, they're constantly having to work harder than they should just to keep everything running normally. Here's something really important that I want you to know. The fact that you're learning about this right now means you have time to make a difference. Your heart is incredibly resilient. I work with people in their 60s, 70 seconds, 80 seconds all the time, and they make changes every single day that actually improve how their hearts work. You're not locked into anything. This isn't about feeling guilty. This is about understanding. That's where everything changes. So the first One on this list might actually surprise you a little bit because it's not really a food itself. It's an ingredient. We're talking about seed oils, things like soybean oil, canola oil, corn oil. These oils are in so many things. Salad dressings, baked goods, fried foods at restaurants, even foods that are marketed as healthy. These oils are heavily processed and they're very high in something called omega-6 fatty acids. Now your body does need omega-6, but the balance matters. It matters a lot. If you look at how people used to eat generations ago, they were getting roughly equal amounts of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. But today, most people are consuming like 15–20 times more omega-6 than omega-3. Think of it like a seesaw. When it tips way too far toward omega-6, your body's inflammatory response just stays activated. Your blood vessels start experiencing what we call oxidative stress. Imagine tiny little sparks of damage on the inside walls of your arteries. And your heart cells have to work harder to pump against all this. Increased resistance. And here's the thing, it's happening silently. No pain, no obvious symptoms, just quietly stressing your system. Where are you actually encountering these oils in your day-to-day life? When you pick up store-bought salad dressing, French fries from a restaurant, most packaged snacks, baked goods from a regular bakery, even foods that say vegetarian or low-fat on the label. The reason they're everywhere is pretty simple. They're cheap, they make food last longer on the shelf, and they taste good. But there's a cost, and that cost is to your heart cells. Now, the second thing that stresses your heart is something you've probably heard about before, but I want to explain it in a way that really makes sense of what's happening. Added sugars. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about the natural sugar in fruit or milk. I'm talking about sugars that get added to food during manufacturing. When you eat added sugar, your blood sugar spikes, your pancreas releases insulin to bring it back down. And if you're consuming sweetened drinks, desserts, breakfast, cereals, flavored yogurts, granola, pasta sauce, all these things, this is happening multiple times throughout your day. Every time your blood sugar spikes like that, it creates a moment of inflammation in your blood vessels. The lining of your arteries, we call it the endothelium, it gets irritated. And when this keeps happening over and over again, that lining starts to get damaged. It's like hitting something repeatedly with small impacts. Eventually, the surface breaks down. Your heart has to work harder to compensate for this damaged lining. It actually builds up protective mechanisms, but ironically, these can end up narrowing your arteries over time. I want you to think about something right now. Just pause for a second. How many times today have you actually consumed something with added sugar in it? I'm not talking about natural fruit sugar. I'm talking about added sugar. Your morning coffee drink, maybe a snack, a meal, just count them quietly. For most people, when they actually think about it, it's a lot more than they expected. The third category we need to talk about is processed meats, deli meats, bacon, sausage, hot dogs, that kind of thing. These are different from fresh chicken or fresh fish or even fresh beef. When meat gets processed, it's treated with sodium nitrites and other preservatives. Now, these preservatives do keep the food safe from bacteria, which is important, but they also have an effect on your cardiovascular system. When you eat processed meat, your body breaks down compounds called N-oxides. These interact with the bacteria in your gut and they create additional inflammatory compounds that end up in your bloodstream. And then on top of that, processed meats have a lot of sodium in them. All that salt makes your blood vessels work harder to manage fluid balance. Your heart has to pump more forcefully to push blood through vessels that are dealing with both chemical irritation and fluid pressure changes. It's kind of like asking someone to run uphill when the conditions are getting harder and harder. Eventually you see the strain. But here's the thing, and I want to be really clear about this. If you have bacon on Saturday morning, your heart isn't going to suddenly fail. That's not how this works. It's about frequency. Someone eating processed meat 5 or 6 times a week is creating constant stress on their system. Someone eating it once or twice a month? That's a completely different story. Your body is actually designed to handle occasional challenges. It's the constant, repeated stress that changes how things function long term. The fourth stressor is refined carbohydrates. White bread, white rice, pastries, most breakfast cereals, these kinds of things. These are grains that have been stripped of their fiber, and that fiber is actually really important. It slows down how quickly your body absorbs the carbohydrates. When you have that fiber, your blood sugar rises gradually. It's a gentle rise. But when you remove the fiber, the absorption is fast. Your blood sugar spikes, your body pumps out insulin, and you get the same inflammatory cascade that I was describing with the added sugars. But there's another thing happening too. Refined carbs don't feed the healthy bacteria in your gut the way whole grains do. When your gut bacteria population gets out of balance, and there's actually a term for this, dysbiosis, it increases something called intestinal permeability. Basically, things that should stay in your digestive system start leaking into your bloodstream. Your immune system sees these as a threat, and it triggers inflammation throughout your whole body, including in your cardiovascular system. Your heart cells respond to this constant, low-level alert by becoming more rigid, more reactive, less efficient. Think back to breakfast this week. What were you eating? Were you eating grains where the grain was whole, where you could actually see the grain intact? Or were they processed into a fine flour? Most people, when they really think about it, realize they've been choosing the processed versions without even thinking about it. The fifth and final stressor is trans fats. You'll see these listed on ingredient labels as partially hydrogenated oils. These are synthetic fats. They're created by adding hydrogen to liquid oils to make them solid at room temperature. You find them in some margarines, some baked goods, certain fried foods. Here's the thing about trans fats: they don't exist in nature. Your body has no evolutionary experience with them. It doesn't know how to handle them. When trans fats get into your system, they actually integrate into your cell membranes, the outer walls of your cells. And that changes how your cells function. For your heart cells specifically, they change how your heart responds to signals from your nervous system. Your heart becomes less responsive. It loses flexibility in its ability to adapt to different demands. At the same time, these trans fats increase inflammation and damage that lining of your arteries I mentioned. So you get this combination that's particularly hard on your heart cells. Now, good news: trans fats have been mostly phased out of food production in the United States, but they still show up in some products, especially in certain brands of margarine and some commercial baked goods. Understanding these 5 foods, it's not about being perfect and avoiding them completely, it's about awareness. When you know what creates stress on your heart cells, you can make conscious choices. Some days you'll choose differently. Some meals will be ones where you really focus on heart-friendly options. Other times you'll make a choice knowing it's not the best thing, but you decide it's worth it to you in that moment. That's real life. That's sustainable. That's actually powerful. I'd really love to know what you think. Of these 5 foods or categories, which one surprised you? Which one are you finding yourself reaching for the most often? Leave a comment. And I'm not asking you to judge yourself, I'm asking you to just acknowledge it. Sometimes just naming something changes how you relate to it. And if this was helpful to you, let me know that too. Your comments actually help me understand what health topics matter to you. Before I finish up, I want to be really clear about something. This is educational content. I'm explaining what the research shows us about how these foods interact with your body. But everyone's different. Your health situation, your medications, your genetics, all of that matters. If you have heart disease, diabetes, any chronic condition, or if you're taking medications that affect your diet, this is definitely something to talk about with your doctor. They know your full picture, and that's really valuable. I'm here to help you understand the science. Your doctor is there to help you apply it to your specific life. Now, here's something that most people don't really think about. Knowing what stresses your heart, that's only half of the equation. The other half, and this is where things get really interesting, is knowing which foods actually repair and strengthen your heart cells. There are foods that don't just avoid damage, they actually heal. They send signals to your heart cells to become more efficient, more resilient, more youthful in how they function. Your heart has been loyal to you for every single year of your life. It's never taken a day off. It's never complained. And right now, today, you have the opportunity to return that loyalty by making choices that support it. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be aware and willing to make small shifts. That's where real change starts. Thank you so much for spending this time learning about your health. The fact that you care enough to do that, that you're willing to understand, that you're taking this seriously, that's already a form of self-love. I'll see you in the next video.